the art of doing good. So this is something which is a lot more complicated than most people think. Most people say good is good, bad is bad. It's as simple as that. But the fact is it isn't. When you're thinking about good, you need to first ask yourself, what is good as an experience? When you're thinking about the world, you need to ask yourself, which world am I thinking about? Which world am I trying to influence? So, as I said, to always focus on the human factor, to focus on experience rather than the concept of life, to recognize that concept, to be able to connect and translate that concept into a moment of experience, to communicate an experience rather than concepts. So I need to clarify what I mean when I say experience. My favorite is actually the second, the present content of consciousness. So when I say experience, I'm actually talking about the experience you're having right here, right now. Not life as a concept, not an idea, not, okay, I'm sitting here, but I've got to do this, I've got to do that. That's working in the world of concepts. Something which can only be in your mind. Experience, what I'm talking about, is the thing that we all have all the time, but never focus on. Why? Because it's always here. Why bother? So I had an experience when I was very young. Basically drowned in a school pool. So the thing what happened just before I kind of went out, I remember lying at the bottom of the pool, lung full of water, knowing this is the end. And then the funniest thing happened. My ego, the talking in my head popped up. And he said, Slim, there's no possibility of tomorrow. I was never real sorry, see you later. Left. And I was left with this feeling of, holy crap, life is awesome. It's over. Luckily, I got dragged out of the pool and resuscitated. But since that day, I've had a very firm definition between my concept life and my actual life being here. But there's actually a creative reason for why that is very, very important. Because your life here now is where your inspiration comes from. It's the thing, it's that place where you pick the idea from nowhere. It's the place where you could be struggling with something forever. You get to that point where you're like, you know what, I'm done, I give up. As soon as you let go, you find a path to innovation. So, to do this, you kind of need to know the definition and the difference of how we think and the different realities we live in. As I said, reality. Life in this moment now. The reality is always here and now. This can only be a reality of experience or feeling. Words, mental words, aren't part of that reality. They are a smaller part of that reality. They sit within this. So this is always here and now. Reason why I like this, because anytime it gets too much in my head, anytime I get too stressed, anytime I'm struggling with my creative, I anchor here. I just sit here. I just sit here and I exist. I watch and I listen. Sound's an interesting thing. Sound never stops. Only your attention from sound stops you from hearing sound. Only your attention brings you away from your moment. Be it your phone, be it TV, be it whatever. It's always the thought reality that pulls you away. So thought realities are very complicated. So I always describe it like this. Imagine you're born with a suitcase. The case is open. As a kid, you're running around, you have experiences, things come into your suitcase, you enjoy them, but then they go back out again because more things are coming in your suitcase. That's why kids are always so in love with the moment. But the problem is in this world, that becomes a little bit too inconvenient for us. So when they get to a certain age, we start saying, hey, Jimmy, that's not like you. I'm gonna need you to stop doing that. What that actually does is makes Jimmy go, wait a second, not like me? Well, I thought I was just enjoying my moment and living my life, but apparently there's a me that I'm not acting like. So that starts to set up the idea of self. And then we end up basically getting even worse by the time you get to school, by the time you start watching news, TV, all of the different areas that influence your story of self. So eventually that suitcase, which used to be free and open, starts to close in around you. And then you start to project your life through the walls of your suitcase. Essentially through the story of your suitcase. I would love to be able just to stop there, but we have this. So this is potentially the most dangerous aspect of humanity, but also potentially the most useful. If that's reality, and that's a story within this, that's a story of that. So that's taking you further away from reality. And that's a dangerous thing, because you become more about the thought of things and the experience of things. The reason why it could be used for good, because if you were to cancel out that and just take your experience of reality and translate it as that, you're projecting a truer truth which is going to connect and resonate with people. So these two tend to blind us to actual reality, the here and now. How many times have you been walking or going somewhere and then you kind of pop into yourself and realize you don't remember a single step of where you were? I did that once. I walked to work, it's a 30-minute walk. I got to the front door and went, I do not remember a single moment of that. And I was so aware of how much of my life I'd wasted, would never get back again. I said, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm just gonna be here. I'm gonna try and be here. And if I find myself slipping off, I'm just gonna drag myself back to here. Because at the very least, if I did that for the rest of my life, it means I spent more of my life actually living than most people ever will. It means at least if I don't do anything, I've enjoyed every single second, every single moment. And like I said, this is the place where your innovation is sparked. That is a place where you develop your ideas. I will never be cocky enough to say, ideas come from me. I'm the conduit of my ideas, but I'm not the source of my ideas. What is the source? Yeah. Like, to know is to go back here. And that's the annoying thing about the whole thought reality. Anytime you try to think about it and work it out, you're back here. Anytime you try to explain it to somebody, you're back here. So how do we deal with this? How do we know this? How do we communicate this? Simple. You have to communicate it in the same language that it exists in. Experience, feelings. By using experience and feelings as a communication tool, you are better to connect to people, because in thought we are similar, in experience we are the same. And the great thing about what it is you guys do, you are the best experience communication people. You take music, you take visuals, you take so many different elements that exist from nothing, and you bring them all together to create something which jacks people out of their thought reality, slaps them straight there, and then says, have some emotion, have some feeling. You can do it in any way you like. You can do it for good, you can do it for bad. Because once you've got somebody there, you can either give them a message which is gonna create more of this and make them feel like this is even realer than it is, or you can give them a message which is gonna make them realize what this is, and actually that we all, regardless of this, we all have this. So, Alan Watts, I don't know if anybody knows who Alan Watts is. He's pretty much gonna explain the same thing I did in a much nicer way. That last part I absolutely love. Because if you say to most people, oh, I tend not to think, they kind of look at you like, why aren't you dead? Like, living without thinking is not possible. But you all know it. I guarantee every single one of you here, when you're doing what you love, you find yourself in a state of not thinking, a state of just being in what you're doing there and then. And it's that thing I want to get you to focus on, because that is you using your own individual perspective of reality to create emotions, to create things which will connect other people to that experience of reality. So, as heavy as it all may seem, the truth is, to do good in this world, you need only to follow the good within inside you. Whatever makes you inspired, whatever makes you feel happy, whatever makes the reason why you're all here right now, the reason why you came here, the reason why you want to do this above everything else. By following that, you're guaranteed to win, always. And another reason is, if we want to talk about doing good in the world, we need to make sure we're doing actual good in people's experience rather than our projected ideas of good. Because most of the bad in this world comes from people who think they're doing good. So that kind of sets up a sticky problem of how do I know that me personally in my work I'm doing good and not my idea of good. And again, I tend to reference experience. My experience, because if I separate myself from my thoughts, I'm essentially the same as you all. We may have different experiences and different memories and different things happen to us, but we all experience feelings, we all experience fear, we all experience love, we all experience wants. We all have the physical feeling of our moment. So if I can learn what that's about, if I can learn how to translate that, if I can learn how to make that and then to use that core to put into something else, which then takes you out of your thoughts and brings you here and gives you that emotion, which you will undoubtedly interpret in your own way, but the essence, the start of it, the feeling of it will be the same. And this is the core of what I mean about doing good. It's not about being like, okay, I went out and saved the world, because that's me going out and saving the world in my head. But in creating work which inspires me, in coming in and speaking to people who I know can inspire others, good is a very individualistic thing. When people say the world, I'm always like, go get them. Like, go get the world. You go get the world, line them up, and I will show you 7 billion individuals. The world, the idea of groups, they exist as a concept, but not as an experience. Because all you ever get is a bunch of individual people. And you, as a bunch of individual creatives, you guys are the forefront of experience communication. So, reason why I want my ideas to resonate with people without my own personal views getting in the way, because who can argue with me when I say the one problem we have in this world, which causes all of the issue, is a clashing of concepts? Yeah, nobody can argue with that. It's a clashing of concepts. I believe this, I don't believe this. In my head it goes, I don't believe this, I don't believe this. Well, you were right in your head. 1 planet, 7 billion worlds. So if concepts cause so much issues, we take a new language, we make a new language, we make the language of experience. And this is why I want you guys to hone, to know you haven't got to follow anybody. And you guys are in such a better space than I ever would have been. Like, the amount of opportunities and the amount of people you can gather to your core, to your passion. Like, the amount of different platforms that it has for you all to shine. You haven't got to even worry about going out to industry. You just got to be true to yourself. And I guarantee you, you will all succeed. You will all feel so much happier within yourselves. Look, it's one thing to tell yourself stories of your life around you. It's a different thing to know the story of reality, life now, and to be able to translate that and share it with people. That's how you create good. That's how you do well. But in your work, animation, video, are one of the best, if not the best, experience communication tools. Understand you can create anything you want. It doesn't always have to be to do good. So you don't have to always be serious about it. Whatever it is you want to do, in the way you want to do it, it's your expression of life. It's your understanding of your moments. It's the thing. Look, there is 200 billion stars in our galaxy and 200 billion galaxies in this universe that we know about, and one you. And you dare think that you're not special, you're not unique. Again, it's just another thought reality. So whenever you find yourself struggling, whenever you find yourself trying to find that creative innovation, trying to find even happiness, or even if you find yourself in a point when things are unknown, keep getting to the now, just stay in the moment. And the unknown, by the way, is your best friend. Straight. Because when people say the unknown, they start to pop loads of scary images in their head, and it gives you that feeling of like, don't know what's around the corner. That feeling is your known. Everything you think can only be created from the things you've seen and the memories you have, which means all of your fears are things that you've already experienced, remixed as a new thing. Admit you don't know. Admit it's unknown, but also know in the unknown is where you sit in that space and get innovation. Like, nothingness doesn't exist. I don't know why I was thinking about nothingness. So I had to Google it, and it just came up. Nothingness is a scientific impossibility. Everything is something. So don't be afraid to sit in what seems like nothingness, because what you're actually doing is discovering everything. embrace your unknown, trust your creative intuition. Every single time I've learned from years of meditation just to trust my gut feeling. Your gut's your first brain, your head's your second brain. Because what normally happens is we get the feeling, and then our brain goes, "Are you sure? It felt right, but now I'm not so sure. Like, there's this person and there's that person." So learn to filter it out. Like, if you follow your head so much rather than your heart, you're not going to do anything fun. Like, if it scares the hell out of you, that's a good indication you're on the right path. Like, the things that feel uncomfortable tend to be when we're walking to the right place. Trust the process. The process is the moment. We tend to like to do things in this moment, but always want to know a little bit further more. Always want to know, what about this next thing? Leave it alone. Engage yourself here. Know tomorrow, okay, tomorrow in the past. I always find those concepts very funny. Because where can the past and the future exist? Show me the past, show me the future. They can only exist now. If there's no now, there is no past, there's no future, there's no nothing. But if you take away your ideas of your past, your future, yourself, you're left with the now, which just shows you what your life actually is. It's an expression of energy and being now. And the more you see that, the more you embrace that, the more you share that, the better world you create. Like I said, concepts, we're similar. Experience, we're the same.